Okay, so I'm having to say this again. I've said it before. I never thought it was a big deal that I had to say it because to me it seems obvious that I'm just, doing what I'm doing, not out of hate, but out of just exploring ideas. So I don't hate women. I don't hate women. I have nothing against women. The furthest you could go with me when you're talking about criticizing the Me Too movement is that I'm celibate, so I don't date or sleep with women, or I don't date or sleep with men. I don't. So there's a big part of me that is outside of that. Sometimes I flirt, but I mean, that's a very different. That's there's a distance there between dating and flirting. I mean, and even the flirting I do is nothing crazy. Like I mean, I don't I have issues with anxiety and stuff, so I don't I don't get out much either because of money and all that stuff. But so yeah, going back on track, I don't date, I don't sleep with people, with men or women. So there is a certain dimension there that I might be missing out on when it comes to the Me Too movement. But this morning I practically woke up thinking about Me Too, and I kind of researched the shitty media men list that was created in October of 2017 in New York by Moira Donegan, who worked for the New Republic, and it was an example. I read a couple of articles on it, and I did not know this before, or maybe I did. I just forgot because I tend to forget a lot. But whatever. But apparently, on that list, there were accusations from everything, ranging from everything from rape to basically awkward dates. And I thought that was just exemplary of the Me Too movement and the hashtag and the whole dealy, because that movement tries to incorporate so many issues facing women and men in the work world, in family life, in social life. So the wage gap, obviously harassment, rape, things like that. Social ills, the patriarchy, a la Emily Linden at Teen Vogue. It just tries to boil everything down to just basically this toxic patriarchal kind of thing, and all men get lumped into it. All men. And to go back to the Emily Linden thing, she said that it's okay if a few innocent men get taken down or dragged through the mud, as long as we get to the point of toppling the patriarchy. And in my humble opinion, you ask me, there's a lot of women out there, they don't want to topple the patriarchy. They don't want a matriarchy. They want to be the patriarchy, okay? They want to be just as aggressive. They want to be just as ruthless as, men are. And you could see this with things like, I'm not really making an apt comparison here, but I mean, you could see it with things like drinking habits, right? So women in the US and Canada end up going out these days, younger women, and they just drink themselves silly. And a lot of times they end up in the hospital ward because why? They're trying to keep up with men. And I'm not even saying trying to keep up with men, they kind of want to use this newfound freedom that they have. And I wouldn't even say it's newfound. I think they've had their rights for a while now, for decades. But they want to take on the world as if they were men, when really there are differences between men and women. And even saying that is basically an infraction. You should not ever say that there's a difference between men and women. But I'll give you another example. Biological difference, obviously, hormonal difference, or endocrinological difference. But there was a study I read about between countries that were freer and countries that were more restrictive when it came to gender rights. So the rights of women and men and equality and how it relates. So in freer countries, you find that women do make different choices when it comes to career paths. They go into the humanities. And in less free countries, women and men tend to go into STEM. Mostly men go into STEM, but the women that do go into university or higher learning go into STEM as well, because they're looking for economic mobility, right? They're kind of forced to go in there to gain some rights, or some freedom, I should say, through entering fields dominated by men. But in freer societies where that equality is given and granted, they go into different things. So it shows a psychological difference as well. So anyway, that was kind of a side road. But men and women are different, and you criticize the notion that there's this tabula rasa thing that happens, and that in that tabula rasa thing, men and women are exactly the same, and everything else is socially constructed. I mean, I find that silly. I find that just extremely silly. But you criticize that, and I feel like that gets incorporated into the Me Too movement as well, right? Because that's considered harassing women, right? Because they're just as good as men, and you're trying to create a two-tier system where men are better and women are blah 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 blah. But that's just the fact. That is a fact. Um, in any case, I'm kind of used to this mentality because my blog originally started out, and still is, basically an atheist blog. And you see this with Islam all the time. You criticize Islam, it means you hate Muslims. You know what I mean? And it's just not true. Like it's not true. But you criticize any idea, and you get labeled as some hateful bigot. You know what I mean? And it's just not true. Anyway, this video is going to fall on deaf ears because what's going to happen is I'm going to say I don't hate women now, and then something's going to happen with the Me Too movement, and I'll make a video criticizing what happened and why it didn't happen and what didn't happen, etc., etc. And they're going to say, aha, he lied. Now he's a liar and a bigot. So that's essentially what's going to happen. But I don't hate women. I just don't. I sometimes I wonder what it would be like if I had more women in my life. But the way circumstances are, I don't have a lot of women in my life. Like I mean, so what? Like I don't have a lot of men in my life. I have like one really close friend and a few other friends that I see on a semi-regular basis, and that's about it. Like I mean, it's not like I'm the epitome of a guy that just prefers guys. Like I mean, like anyway, that's all I gotta say. Bye.